Now to Britain's and possibly the world's biggest ever stamp theft, and there's a £24,000 reward for the person who solves this one. It happened about 2 months ago, in fact on Monday, March the 26th, in the City of London. Thousands of stamps were stolen, including irreplaceable items of postal history and some complete collector's albums.
The stamps had been valued and catalogued by Stanley Gibbons, ready to be flown to South Africa for auction. They were on public display for 2 days. Then the consignment was picked up by the same freight company which Stanley Gibbons has used for the past 12 years to transport stamps to the airport. It was a Monday, March the 26th, and this particular delivery was worth rather more than usual, approximately £250,000. The stamps were locked in 3 green plastic canisters and 2 suitcases like these. It was about 1:20 p.m. when the driver left Stanley Gibbons and drove east down the Strand. After one other routine collection, he arrived, still with the stamps on board, at Adler Street in Whitechapel. Another regular job. By now it was about 1:40 p.m. and he went straight to the first floor office. But the goods weren't ready for collection, so he had a cup of coffee and then left about 10 minutes after arriving. And the driver is certain that at this point he did check that the back of the van was still locked. Next stop, St Mary Axe in the City of London. He parked outside the Baltic Exchange, just beyond number 24, where he was due at 2 o'clock. He was a few minutes early. Were you in St Mary Axe at around 2 o'clock on Monday the 26th of March, while the van was unattended? Do you use this bank or cash point? And if so, do you recall seeing this blue van or any one or any vehicle near it? Because by 2:05, the van had been opened and £250,000 worth of stamps had gone. Well, Detective Chief Inspector Alan Goodman is in charge of investigations at Bishopsgate Police Station. How sure are you now that the stamps were stolen in St Mary Axe?
We're satisfied that the theft actually occurred in St Mary Axe. We're obviously keen to talk to anybody who may have seen something, particularly people who may have attacked the back of the van and perhaps got into it and taken the canisters out of the vehicle. We're also interested in trying to see whether anybody may have noticed another vehicle that may have followed the van from Stanley Gibbons down to the city.
Now, what about those canisters and the stamps themselves?
Yes, well, I have one in the studio with us tonight, and we haven't found any of the 3 canisters, and this is identical to those that were stolen. We'd be interested to hear from anybody who may have seen these laying about anywhere at all, and obviously any information we would treat in the strictest confidence.
And the stamps, some of them were very rare indeed, weren't they?
Yes, some of them were. We have, in fact, a tuppenny blue. There's a pair of tuppenny blues, and they are worth in the region of £7,500. There are others that aren't quite as valuable, but still would attract interest, particularly from dealers or collectors. And again, we'd be interested to hear from anybody who may have been offered these, particularly at a cheaper price.
Right, so stamp collectors who might have received anything from this particular catalogue recently, please let us know.
The number to ring, 01811 8055. We'll be waiting for your call. The next crime happened in a crowded public place and in broad daylight. There were thousands of potential witnesses, and maybe you were one of them. It's a crime that involved a great deal of planning, and possibly the culprit was wearing some disguise. This is Sydenham Road in Guildford city centre, right by Holy Trinity Churchyard. They've been doing building work here for the past 2 months, but you might remember one day in particular.
It's Derby Day at Epsom, and the crowds are already massing on the course.
It was a memorable day for quite another reason in this part of Surrey. At about 10:30 that morning, a workman noticed a young man, particularly smartly dressed it seemed, and with a woman's push-bike, which he left by the churchyard railings. Guildford High Street is just 100 yards away, and several of the shops had just started their summer sales. It was close to Sainsbury's that a couple of shoppers next spotted the smartly dressed man. They couldn't have suspected that they were looking at a gunman. One young couple remember him joining them on a bench. The woman noticed his smooth appearance and dark, curly hair. She thought it looked too perfect and wondered if it was a wig. It's now 2:45. In less than an hour, he'll reveal himself as a potential killer. At 20 to 4, this van parked outside Sainsbury's store and a guard got out to pick up the day's takings. The Securicorps guard had held on to the money. A shopper tried to have a go and the robber panicked. The shots he fired went into the ceiling, and now he raced away along a route he'd mapped out quite precisely. Up into Holy Trinity Churchyard and along through the old cemetery. And that's where he picked up the bike he'd so carefully positioned earlier by the building site. He got on it by the Sydenham Road multi-storey car park and pedalled fast downhill towards Guildford Castle. A gardener saw him race past and thought he might knock someone down on the narrow path. But the gunman had chosen this pedestrian route so that a police chase would be nigh on impossible. At the end of Castle Hill footpath, the bike was abandoned, and where he went next is guesswork. He probably ended up at Castle Arch by Guildford Museum, and he could have had an accomplice waiting for him there in a car. If he went left, he may have headed out to Shalford or Horsham. Or alternatively, he may have got into a car just below at Millbrook Car Park. Either way, at this point, the Guildford Derby Day gunman disappeared. Detective Chief Inspector Tim Blake is the man hunting him. You're obviously looking for witnesses in the Millbrook Car Park area and in the Quarry Street area, but there are some tangible clues as well.
There are.
Now, what do we know about the bike, for example?
The bike we know is 16 years old. It was made specifically for the mail order market and co-op stores. It's a Royal Albert make with 3-speed gear and the basket, as you can see.
And it's a sort of maroon colour. Now, somebody either sold this, it's a woman's bike with this sort of... this, of course, could have been added later, the basket, or it was stolen. Now, did it come from the Guildford area?
Well, we've had vast publicity in the Guildford area. We have received a negative response on that. So it could have been brought down in the boot of a car or in a van, and we are interested in anyone who saw a man in Guildford taking a bike like this from the boot of a car in contacting us.
On Derby Day, June the 6th, and the man looks like what?
He's 25 to 30 years of age, 5'10" to 6 foot, slim, fit, tanned and very smart appearance.
Right. Now, that description is crucial because almost a month to the day before the attack at Sainsbury's, there was a very similar raid at a store nearby, Debenhams in Guildford. And it might have been the same man. In fact, this time he was caught by the security camera. And here he is at the moment of the robbery. He pointed a pistol at a Securicorps guard and he escaped with £13,000 worth in cash. This is his photo fit. And like the Sainsbury's raider, he's white, about 5'10", slim, and in his late 20s or early 30s. But is it the same man? Now, Crimewatch UK has been working on an entirely new technique for comparing and enhancing photo fits. Now, this is a standard police issue photo fit kit. It's actually, and you've probably seen these things before, it's a sort of jigsaw with over 500 pieces that slot in here. Eyes, chins, noses, ears, all that sort of thing. Now, that can be put together to produce 5 million different faces. Here at Crimewatch UK, we've been trying to improve on this with the aid of a new piece of computer technology called an electronic paint box. With the help of an actual witness and under the supervision of an officer acquainted with both the Guildford cases, let's see how with the paint box that photo fit image can be improved. The first thing is to erase those jigsaw lines that break up the photo fit face. The cross on the screen, incidentally, corresponds to the position of this electronic pen on a sort of magic pad.
Right, are you happy with the shape of that face and style of the face now?
Yes, it's very good.
Now, also in your statement, you made reference to the fact that this chap had a all-over even, nice even suntan. Would you like to just try some sort of colour for a tan, please?
It's a bit light, really. Can you make it any darker?
Right, how is that for a suntan then, Elizabeth?
I think it's about right, really.
Red, right. And the glasses themselves, are you happy with the shape of them?
Yes, they were quite tinted.
So they were dark and what was seen on there?
Yes. I think they're about right.
Slightly darker.
Perhaps a bit darker. A bit more like sunglasses. That's better.
Looking at the picture there, how would you, what colour would you make his hair now then?
Sort of browny coloured. And darker than that.
What about the curls themselves, what were they like?
They're really spaced out, they looked really uniform, as though they'd been permed or
What, far apart or close together?
sort of about half an inch between each curl, really.
Quite uniform sort of curls.
Yes, very even all over his head.
What else do you remember about them?
He had about one grey hair in each curl. That's a better colour. Maybe just put, if that's right, just a few bits of grey in it.
You're quite satisfied that's a fairly good resemblance to the person
Yes.
you saw in Guildford?
Yes, definitely looks like him.
In fact, that's the best impression the police have had so far of the Sainsbury's gunman. Now let's apply this same technique to the robbery suspect at Debenhams. Now, as an experiment, let's see what happens when we compare them both. Take now the hair from the Guildford Sainsbury's suspect, put it on the Debenhams one. You remember some witnesses thought it might have been a wig, and one witness said the Debenhams man was wearing sunglasses. And as a final touch, let's take off his moustache. Chief Inspector Blake, people's recollections of faces, of course, can be highly unreliable. How much of a help is this paint box technique?
I agree with you, they can be mistaken, particularly when they've only had a fleeting glimpse of the offender. But certainly this paint box gives an added weapon to the armoury of an investigating officer.
This man, next time, maybe could kill somebody. If anybody thinks they know him but details don't fit, presumably you still want them to call you?
Oh, yes, we do. He could kill.
Right, thank you. If you think that you can help in any way, and as I say, please remember that he, maybe they, use loaded guns. Please don't let anyone be killed. This is the number here, 01811 8055. Or you can ring Guildford direct, that's 0483 31111. Guildford 31111.
And in fact, Bedfordshire police are investigating another case that hit the headlines. You might remember back in March, the burglary at Woburn Abbey. Thieves made off with an heirloom collection of fine silver, one of the finest in the world, about £5 million worth. How did they do it? Well, like all the most ingenious schemes, it was actually very simple. So simple, it should serve as a warning. To the security guard patrolling the house that night, everything seemed in order as usual. Little did he know there were intruders in the darkness outside. A car had silently entered the grounds through a back gate. Undetected by the camera, the burglars made straight for the stonemason's workshop where the ladders were kept. They picked one of just the right length. They'd obviously done their homework. It was 19 minutes past midnight when they disconnected the infrared light attached to the camera. The guard saw his monitor screen darken and noted a malfunction in his duty log. The robbers lay low for a while to make quite sure the guards had not reported anything suspicious to the police. In fact, it was 3 hours before they attempted their next move, which was accomplished quite simply with a cheap can of spray paint. In the control room, the effect was exactly the same as a camera breaking down. A final burst of paint put paid to the floodlight. The rest was easy. And 4 months on, there's no news whatsoever of what happens to the treasures. Detective Chief Superintendent Brian Prickett is once again the man in charge of this case. What actually did they get away with?
They took a family collection of silver and silver gilt that included the very unique Paul de Lamry bread baskets, candlesticks, and the Lancia silver, which is also well known.
That's a unique piece, isn't it?
Very unique indeed.
In particular, there's the Russell family crest on most of these pieces, isn't there?
That is right, yes. The vast majority have got the crest on, and it also has a goat as part of the crest, and also has the words K Sarah Sarah, or if not, the letter B.
So are people likely to come across this in an antique shop or something?
I think they are. Our information is that the majority of the stuff is still awaiting sale, but a number of items have been sold and could well be in second-hand shops or even antique shops.
Now, there's one major clue in this case, and that's this pickaxe handle. What does this tell you?
That's right. The pickaxe handle is alien to the scene, and it has an initial T on it, and also one other initial in front of it, which is not particularly clear. And would like to find the ownership of that, and would ask people if they recognise it, contact us.
So somebody might recognise that. And of course there's that reward of £100,000, which could be an incentive.
I think it could, yes. I think it would be an incentive both to members of the public generally and to the criminal world.
Brian Prickett, thank you very much indeed. And the numbers to ring, as always, you can call us here in the studio, 01811 8055, or you can call the police in Dunstable on 0582 603 141. That's 0582 603 141.
Finally, a truly ferocious crime. The victims were a group of people in a Merseyside pub. They'd simply gone to their local for a drink. In the reconstruction that follows, we show no explicit scenes of violence, but I must warn you that the language is pretty vivid and the action is necessarily highly realistic. It's a violent story of a violent night. It was the end of a Sunday evening in the Old Stanley pub in the Old Swan area of Liverpool.
Come on now, gents. Come on, drink up, will you? Come on then, that's enough. Come on.
As is the custom in this part of Merseyside, 2 officers on the beat did their usual round of the local pubs at closing time.
Okay, love?
Oh, fine. No trouble, thanks, lads. No trouble at all.
Maybe
Okay.
two,
Right.
They checked there were no problems in the pub and they made their way towards the door. Ironically, right at their feet was a brown sports bag whose contents, had they known them, would have brought half the police in the district to the pub.
He said, I'd never fall out with you.
Now, we'll finish with that.
All right, Peggy, we're going now, love.
Oh, it's all right. You can hang on a bit if you like, look, because there's a couple of lads out there and I don't like the look of them. We've got enough lagers there to last them all night long.
Peggy, they're going now, love. You're all right.
Oh, thank God for that.
The time is now 11:30, and the last few regulars in the Old Stanley began to finish off their drinks.
On the floor! Get on that floor now! For real! Get out! Not one move! Right, now give us your tom and your jewellery! Come on, get it on! Go on, you divvy! Don't! All right, lads! Shut it, mate! Right. All right, what's doing this? Don't try it here, no! Come on! Fill the bag! Come on! Go on, you friggin' divvies! Give it to him! Come on, I want to fill this up! Don't mess us about! Sunshine. All right, mate! Not enough. I'm telling you, it's not enough! Well, what do you mean to do about it?
During the commotion, one of the customers made a dash for it, and one of the men seems to have let slip the other's name.
Hey, Tony, get that bastard!
Just at that very moment, a police car stopped right outside the pub. But the police were simply checking a passing motorist. They were preoccupied, and they didn't hear the fearful noises coming from the pub.
All right, we'll call the law. I'll call the law. Just one time, now blow your brains out. And there's... You friggin' bullet! Shit!
That's not good enough for him. What is that?
No! Shut up! Shut up!
You think his name's Tony, don't you? It's not, is it, Bill?
No, that's right, Alan.
We're having your own with me, Fred. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Who's the manager?
I am.
Where's the safe?
It's not in here.
Don't cheat me. Where's the safe?
It's outside.
Come on.
Don't frig us about! Shut up!
Right. Keep them covered. Anybody moves, blow their brains out. Come on, you.
Those who were there will never forget the 2 hours that followed.
Smaller guy, he was like a psycho. I mean, there's no two ways about it. At the end, the day's going to come and he'll definitely kill someone because he's got no value for human life whatsoever.
It was like mental rape what he'd done to us. It really was. He's destroyed me. Totally. I'll never forget it. Never.
You. Is that a necklace you got there, eh? And you? All of you. Roll your collars down. Come on, you. Stay where you are. Don't try it. Just don't even think of it. Showed you. You thought I was stick, didn't you, eh? You cunning bunch of bastards! Don't try anything like that again. Just don't try it. What'd you get?
800 notes. Oh, and there was an old video upstairs, so I kicked it in.
Why?
Because it felt like it.
Get out, you silly old bitch!
What did you get?
Nothing much.
Don't piss me about. What did you get?
None!
Come on, tell me.
All your bunch of necklaces.
Well, there's another one.
Great.
800 quid's not enough.
There's some in the till.
Right.
Hey, go and get some champagne while you're there. We'll have a party.
Oh, yeah, get some Bacardi, eh? Julie likes Bacardi. We'll have a party.
Julie likes that, doesn't she?
That's right. And don't think I've finished with you lot.
In fact, the ordeal went on for over 2 hours that night. Now, all the men, quite defenceless in front of the guns, were kicked and beaten, and after one of them suffered a fractured skull, one of the gunmen poured cordial into the wound. In all, £3,000 worth of jewellery and £1,400 in cash was taken. 2 of the women there have since suffered nervous breakdowns. Detective Chief Inspector John Corrin is determined to get the men responsible. He needs your help. What help do you want from the public?
Well, as we saw from the film, that was a particularly vicious and sadistic crime carried out in a family public house on a Sunday evening in Liverpool. We want to trace these 2 men urgently. Even experienced officers who've been working on this case were shocked by the violence and mental stress which is put upon these people.
Now, it wasn't just one occasion. In fact, the second time this struck was 20 miles away from the Old Swan at Warrington in Cheshire. The style, the viciousness, the unnecessary violence of the attack make the police almost certain that the same men are responsible. The targets this time were customers in the Bluebell Inn near Warrington town centre. The date, the 22nd of February, that's 10 days after the Liverpool attack. Again, it was closing time, and this time they coshed a 78-year-old man over the head with the butt of a shotgun. Now, we know, or at least we think we know, that one of them was called Tony, because that was the name that we heard, and also Julie likes Bacardi.
Yes, we did. We are we're convinced that one of them is called Tony because on both occasions this name was used. They tried to cover it up in the Liverpool incident, but we are sure that Tony and an associate carried out this offence.
And someone called Julie knows them?
And Julie will probably be a wife or a girlfriend of one of these men, and I implore on this girl, whoever she is, called Julie, to get in touch with us, because this was a very serious, these are two serious crimes, and I feel that she may have the key to who these people are.
She may be frightened herself, of
She
course.
may well be. Any information she will give us will be treated in full confidentiality.
What are these things that you've brought with you?
This was brought into the public house by one of the offenders in the hold-all which carried the guns. This is a towel which is thrown to one of the victims to wipe the blood on his head. And I would like to trace where it came from, if possible.
Right, and there's a rope there.
Yes, but this rope was used to tie one of the victims up. It's a peculiar type of rope with a white inset, probably from a dressing gown cord or a lady's dress. We don't know. And if anybody has one missing from a dress or anything, I would like to know from them.
And obviously, publicans in the area and anybody who's drinking late at night should watch out for two men who fit those descriptions.
Yes, I would say so. But, not necessarily rough public houses. Ordinary family public houses, I would urge them to be aware of men with carrying hold-all bags, two waiting at the end of time and sitting there with quite a bit to drink.
Chief Inspector, thank you. Now, these are the numbers to ring. Please don't let other people suffer in this macabre way. 01 811 8055 here in the studio. You can call the detectives in Liverpool direct. Their number is 051 777 3643. That's Liverpool 777 3643.
Well, now to Operation Bogey, which is the name that the Manchester Regional Crime Squad has given to the task of catching a crook, a bogus official who's been preying on elderly and defenceless victims. He's thought to have committed more than 130 offences, and this hunt for the Manchester bogeyman serves as a warning to people everywhere. His method of operation is a common one. The suave antiques dealer in one place will appear as the gas man in another, and crooks like him operate throughout the country.
Yes?
From the gas board. Sorry to bother you, but we're just checking the new metering system in this area. I have to take a few quick readings. Do you mind if I come in? Won't take a minute.
It's easy to be fooled by the official-looking card. It's just as easy to be fooled by the helpful handyman.
Look, I hate to tell you this, love, but it's a bit of a mess up there. Whoever done that chimney was a right cowboy. The point, he's in a dreadful state. Look, I could do that job in an afternoon for 50 quid. It'll save you a lot of time and trouble later.
He may just be ripping you off, or like our next con man, he could be blatantly casing your joint for a tasty antique.
I spend most of my time travelling up and down the country talking to people like yourself. And you know, you wouldn't believe how many things they have that are valuable. They don't realise they're antiques. They think they're just worthless. Yes, you've got some very valuable things in this house.
Well, these crimes rarely make the headlines, but their effects are sometimes much more devastating to the victims than other crimes which seem a great deal more dramatic. The Manchester conman, thereafter, seems to have been operating for almost 3 years. His favourite targets are elderly people living alone in high-rise blocks.
He came in and he said he wanted to inspect the plugs, and he went from room to room, and I was trying to follow him, and of course in my condition I couldn't follow him, you see. I had an electric bill due and a phone bill almost due, and some money for my son to take me away for 5 days to Eastbourne. So I put it in my handbag, and he must have picked it up, opened it very quickly. He was a very smooth customer. Opened the zip like that, taken everything out, including my pension, and he got away with the lot.
He took £10 in notes. He took a lady's gold wristwatch. The watch on the chain was... Oh, dear me, I don't know how to say it. Gone.
For 79-year-old Henry Townsend, it's those personal mementos he misses most.
Inside my coat was a fob pocket, and inside that fob pocket I put the rings. He missed them, but took the gold wristwatch and the gold locket and chain.
I went to my cooker and he pulled the drawer open. He could see there was money in a patty, so he undid it, took the money out. So I thought, oh, my money. When I opened the drawer, my money had gone. But mind you, if I could have got my hands on him, I've got something in here. I'd have clocked him on the head with it. He wouldn't have got up no more.
Well, Detective Superintendent Wood, what else can you tell us about this man which might just make somebody realise that they've met him or seen him somewhere?
Well, here we have a very evil man who is very plausible, very confident, and gets into people's homes by winning the confidence of the individual. He operates normally at the lunchtime period. He steals property, which is mainly cash, and we're aware that he's stolen in excess of £50,000.
That's some going, isn't it? Well, let's have a look at the character you want people to watch out for. We have several descriptions of the man, who's white and in his mid to late 30s, and those descriptions differ slightly in some details. So let's start off with one of the most recent sightings. This standard photo fit came from a witness who encountered him earlier this year. Once again, the Crimewatch video fit cleans up the black and white original and, according to the witness's recollection, adds details like skin tone and hair colour. Various witnesses thought the moustache was false. The video fit gives you an impression of how he'd look without one. There have been other good descriptions. This photo fit from 1982 shows a man with rather straighter hair. In this case, by the way, we haven't enough information to add any greater detail. If you put the three video fit images side by side, we'll get a range there of possible faces.
Yes, these are very good descriptions indeed, but we are mindful, of course, in some instances we've had the moustache described as being false, and of course that could equally apply to the hair as well. So what we're asking anybody who feels they could assist us with the identity of this man, we'd be very grateful.
So basically, if anybody sees anybody suspicious, no matter what they look like, if they think they might be the person, to get in touch with you.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Wood.
Well, the number, if you can help, 01811 8055 here in the Crimewatch studio, or you can ring Manchester direct on 855 3975. There it is, 061 for Manchester, 855 3975. We start tonight with one of the most elaborate of crimes. It must have involved months of research and setting up, but it was over in about 3 minutes. The crooks are clearly dangerous, but they've profited to the tune of £500,000. We can show you exactly how it was done, because steps have now been taken to stop it happening again. Now watch closely. If you can help solve this one, you could make yourself a fortune. There's a reward of almost £50,000. The story begins in Chelmsford in Essex.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our combined plant and commercial auction here on October the 1st.
The story begins on the first day of last month in Essex, at one of the busiest car and lorry auctions in the south of England. It was here that someone made what should have been a discreet transaction, but it didn't go unnoticed.
7.9 bid at 7. 7.25 against 7.50. 7.75 at 7.75 for the first. Second, third at 7.75. Can you sign with the young lady, please?
The man who bought that yellow lorry stood out at the auction. He had black, greased-back hair, he spoke with a West Midlands accent, and he wore a tie. Somehow he seemed too smartly dressed for the occasion. He was probably with two other men. The lorry they'd bought had nearly 200 miles to cover before it reached its final destination. It's 8:30 a.m. the next day, Tuesday, October the 2nd, and two men joined this blue Bedford van filling up at a petrol station at Market Drayton in Shropshire. One of the men was particularly distinctive, heavily built, 5 foot 10 inches tall, with long, dark hair and a striking Mexican-style moustache. One witness also remembers the driver of the blue van. He was stockily built, in his late 30s, and he had light brown hair which looked as though it was receding at the sides. He also wore a gold ring on his right hand.
Thanks a lot, love.
The blue van had been stolen from Leeds in June. Just after 10 a.m. that same day, on an industrial estate in Telford, a van driver noticed a stranger in the lorry park. He was picking up this distinctive purple and white tipper truck. It had been parked there for a week. This lorry had been bought 12 days earlier at another auction in Measham in Leicestershire. It had an appointment to keep in just over 2 hours' time, and it set off into the heart of Shropshire along the A442 Whitchurch Road. It's later that same day, Tuesday, October the 2nd. It was lunchtime when this Group 4 armoured security van left the Shropshire town of Wem, travelling east to make another delivery. The journey took it over Western Crossroads on the A49. That's the main trunk road from Shrewsbury to Warrington. And that was where it passed a distinctive purple and white lorry.
What's he up to? He ain't gonna stop. Get him back! Get him back! There's another one behind us.
Out! Quick, now, come on, out, out! Bogey! Round the front, block! Lie down, lie down! Shrug your legs! Lie down! One more, one more! Come on, come on, come on! Come on! Go on, pass with that cat! Don't shoot, okay, don't shoot! Right. Go on, hurry up! Okay, okay! Don't shoot! Come on! There's gotta be more! More, that's it! Go!
In those few terrifying minutes, they disappeared with £454,000 in virtually untraceable banknotes. Now, just to recap, the yellow lorry came from Chelmsford and was driven 200 miles to the ambush point near the A49. That's not far from the Shropshire market town of Wem. The next day, Tuesday, October the 2nd, the gang closed in. At Market Drayton, the blue getaway van was seen filling up. And at Telford, the distinctive purple lorry was driven away. At 12:15 that day, the Group 4 van set off from Wem, crossed the A49, and this is where it finished up. Detective Superintendent Barry Main, let me make the point first of all. We obviously consulted you and Group 4 in some detail before showing that this sort of crime would now be hard to replicate.
Certain steps have been taken to avoid a recurrence, yes.
Right, now, the lorries are obviously the best clues you have to go on. What information do you need?
Well, the yellow lorry, we believe, was driven up from the auction in Chelmsford into Shropshire on the 1st of October. It had a mechanical fault. It was losing oil and water, so it was necessary to stop fairly frequently.
So it was dropping oil and would have called in at stations?
Yes,
petrol
somebody
stations,
must
probably.
have seen that vehicle.
OK, fine. And the blue getaway van, that had been stolen in Leeds?
That was stolen in Leeds on the 26th of June, and it must have been stored between that time and the 2nd of October. So where was it?
Right. Now, what about the men? We've got some not bad descriptions. We've got the man who was at Chelmsford in the auction. Now, we've got a fairly good description. That's the video fit you've got of him there.
Yes, now he's described as in his 30s. He's 5'6", he's clean-shaven, and as you see, his hair is greased and combed back.
Now, we've done a video fit here. He was described as having a sallow complexion. What was meant by that?
Witnesses describe him as looking ill.
As ill? Right,
yes.
Now that slicked back hair, obviously, if you were going to disguise yourself, maybe one of the first things you do is cream back your hair.
Well, I'd have difficulty doing that, but yes, it's possibly a disguise.
OK. Now, the other guy, he was with this extraordinary moustache. Again, that presumably could have been a false moustache.
That's possible, yes.
Again, with the video fit, we can take that off. This guy's stockily built. And that's the best description we've got of him. That's what he'd look like without the moustache.
Yes.
The reward, it's enormous.
Yes, it is. Up to £45,000 for any information concerning the robbery.
Tax-free, I presume?
I presume so, yes.
Now, if people are frightened about ringing in, can they ring anonymously? Can they ring in confidence?
Yes, we'd like to hear from anyone who has information. Of course, if they want the reward, then we will require some detail.
Obviously, you're going to have an address and a name for them if they want to get something of the reward. The number to call if you can help, here it is, 01811 8055. If you prefer, you can call the incident room at Wem Police Station. That's Wem 34100, 0939 34100.